Hello, welcome to Sunday Morning Cornerman. On this episode of the SMC, we'll discuss all the relevant fights of UFC on ESPN4, aka UFC on ESPN Dos Anjos versus Roberts, aka UFC San Antonio. I will do all of this with the co-host of Sunday Morning Cornerman, who can be read at Sherdog, Cage Side Press, Fanside, and heard on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, the greatest podcast network in all the land. He's the great Keith Schilling. Keith, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's nice to be back. I had a 1 week layoff, so before I start, I want to thank the man Ben Duffy, who filled in, a senior editor for Sherdog. He did above and beyond of what he was expected and killed it. So I appreciate him filling in for me last week.
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely want to thank Ben. He did do amazing. It's good to have Keith back. Things are normal when Keith's here. They're not abnormal when Ben's here, but they're normal when Keith's here. Keith, let's switch things up a little bit this week. Instead of listening to one of my well-crafted Hemingway-esque intros, let's run down some event facts and go from there. First, this event marked the promotion's second visit to San Antonio and first since UFC Fight Night Swanson versus Stevens in June 2014. The only fighters to appear on this card and that one are Ray Borg and Alexei Oleinik. Oleinik is huge in Mission City, which is also known as for San Antonio. What else we got? Oleinik was expected to face Walt Harris on May 4th, 2019 at UFC Fight Night Iaquinta versus Cowboy. However, he was pulled from the pairing with Harris on April 3rd and instead faced Alistair Overeem at UFC Fight Night. Overeem versus Oleinik. Lightweight bout between Alexander Hernandez and Francisco Trinaldo has also been rescheduled. The pairing was first expected to take place on January 26, 2019 at UFC 233. However, Hernandez was pulled from that fight to fight Cowboy. A women's flyweight bout between UFC's Bantamweight Championship challenger Liz Carmouche and UFC Women's Flyweight Championship challenger Roxanne Modafferi was scheduled for this event. However, Carmouche was pulled to fight Valentina Shevchenko. At weigh-ins, Maya weighed in at 129 pounds, 3 pounds over the women's flyweight non-title fight limit. As a result, Maya was fined 30% of her purse, and the bout proceeded as a catchweight bout. That's pretty much all the pre-UFC Fight Night San Antonio, UFC on ESPN4 San Antonio information I can give you. Keith, when you sat down to do your exhaustive research of this card, what'd you think?
Wow, man, I don't know how I fully follow that up. Man, that was a lot of good information. I mean, I know we had record-setting night with the tied the most decisions in history. That's always I shouldn't say it's a good stat. It's probably a bad stat. And they set the record for most decisions to start off a card in a row. So that's not good. But my pre-thought of the fights, I was excited about this card. I thought there was a lot of intriguing stories. I thought there was a lot of intriguing matchups. I like what I have a hard time picking a fight. That's the matchups I'm always interested in. If I say, oh, this guy's going to kill a guy, I'm not that interested. The main event was a hard one to pick. The co-main event, I think almost all the way down the card, of the 12 fights, I think I struggled to pick 9 of them. And that's what I like, and I think that's what fans should like. I want to be surprised. I don't want to know the end.
All right, so let's get to it. Keith, prior to the whole two-piece and the soda of it all, Leon Edwards was surging. He hadn't lost anybody that wasn't named Kamaru Usman in 3 years. Rafael Dos Anjos has had a very interesting career. A middling fighter at the beginning of his career. He's the Anthony Anderson of MMA, Keith. Early on, he's the fat guy trying to steal an ATM in barbershop, losing to Jeremy Stevens, Tyson Griffin, Clay Guida, and Gleason Tibau. And then after the Khabib Nurmagomedov loss, he's a world beater, picking up wins over Benson Henderson, Nate Diaz, Anthony Pettis, and Cowboy Cerrone. Then the decline started. He lost the belt, switched weight classes, and here we are at a fight in UFC San Antonio with Leon Edwards. So when I watched this fight, it was interesting because obviously we lost the fight between Conor McGregor and RDA based on RDA breaking his foot. I don't want to say Leon Edwards versus RDA was a similar fight to that because I think Conor throws more kicks, but Edwards and Conor are both southpaws. They throw from a lot of different angles. Edwards has a little bit more size, but I don't know. I saw Edwards throwing some of these punches that I thought I would have seen out of Conor. when you saw this fight, and forget the Connor comparison, that's just me being half a casual, trying to work Connor into the conversation, Keith. But when you saw this, what'd you think? What stuck with you?
Well, I mean, like, I don't really agree with the Connor comparison just because, like you said, the size. I think the takedown threat of Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is a very good wrestler. I mean, you can make an argument that he might be the best wrestler in England history. I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday. Yeah, Michael Bisping is the greatest fighter to come out of England. But Leon Edwards is probably the most well-rounded fighter to come out of England. I mean, Bisping never was the offensive wrestler that Leon Edwards is. Going back to this fight, I saw Leon Edwards looking fantastic. I mean, like I said, it was a tough fight to predict. There was a lot of things that I was worried about. I thought the output from Dos Santos was going to be an issue. I didn't think Edwards would be able to sustain the output, but it was actually the other way around. It seemed like Edwards was throwing more punches. It seemed like he was the one that was getting stronger as the fight went on instead of fading. And that was so impressive. And it's one of these ones is like, when are we going to stop putting respect on this guy's name? I mean, he's won 8 fights in a row in arguably the best weight class in the UFC. And he's in a main event. He just faced a former champion that's still good. I mean, he's coming off the win off against Kevin Lee, and he beat the shit out of RDA. I mean, it was an easy fight. I scored at 49-46. I saw a lot of people put out there 50-45. I mean, I think 49-46 is probably the closest you could have scored the fight. So, I mean, Edwards' hands was crisp. His takedown defense, I mean, how many takedowns did he stop with RDA? His cardio looked good. And what was really impressive is I don't think he got hurt one time in the fight. RDA hit him with some big shots, and his legs never buckled. He never took a step back. Man, RDA is still good, but Edwards is on another level right now than RDA.
Let's talk about this because RDA took this fight on relatively short notice. He just beat Kevin Lee prior. Do you think that this is a case of RDA sleeping on Edwards a little bit? Do you think he was trying to, like, what was the upside for Dos Anjos to take this fight on? I mean, I saw the look on your face. Listen, I was under the understanding that it was kind of short notice. Do you understand something differently? And if it was,
no, it was only 2 months ago. So I mean, it's a very short notice. I mean,
okay. So then, what's the upside for RDA to take this fight? Does he gain more in beating Leon Edwards than he gained in beating Kevin Lee? You follow me?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know. I mean, if he beat Edwards, he wouldn't have. I mean, I think he was ranked 5th or 6th in the weight class. He wasn't going to move up in the age. He was ranked higher than us. So he wasn't going to move up. I think it was just a financial thing. I think he wanted to pay. You might have been right. He might have been very confident that he could beat him, and that backfired because Leon Edwards is good. I mean, that's the only way I could really wrap up the whole night is Leon Edwards is good, and I don't think a lot of people. Even today, I'm listening to what people are saying about, and people are bashing him for calling out Masvidal and this and that, and I'm like, guys, did you watch what he did yesterday? This guy's good. But like, why? How many times this guy's going to beat tough guys until we start giving him respect? I'm going to say something crazy, and if they make that Masvidal fight, I might take Edwards. I think Edwards beats him.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely interesting. I don't know. Man, now you brought something into this that's interesting for me.
I think he's stronger than Masvidal. I think he arguably might be a better striker. That I probably would have leaned to Masvidal before, but after seeing last night what he did to Rafael Dos Anjos, a very good striker in his own way, and kind of picked him apart. He's a better offensive wrestler. Now, I don't know if he'd be able to keep down Masvidal because, Damian Maia struggled to do that. A lot of good wrestlers struggle to do that. But just all that together, man, I don't know. I feel right now Masvidal went from a fighter that was very underrated before the Donald Cerrone fight to a now, after knocking out Ben Askren, to a guy who's extremely overrated. I feel like people think I think a Kamaru Usman would run right through Jorge Masvidal. I think his teammate Colby Covington would run through him.
That's interesting.
I think I don't know. Maybe sometimes the pendulum swings one way, that the natural reaction is to swing it back too far the other way, and I might be doing that, and I kind of feel like I am where I'm like, people are overreacting to Masvidal, so I'm overreacting the other direction. But man,
Well, real quick, how much sense does that fight make for you? Just in terms of booking it, like, never mind who you think's going to win. Do you think that makes sense for both guys?
Yeah, it's so funny because it seems like I'm like the only person on earth other than Leon Edwards who's like, man, that's the fight to make, because you have a little dilemma right now at welterweight. You know, I know Masvidal is the biggest thing, sexist thing. I still think Colby Covington can make that fight. I think the way he trash talks, if he beats Robbie Lawler, he could set up. You can do the behind the scenes stuff with him crashing the open workouts with Kamaru Usman, him and Kamaru Usman getting like kind of shoving match with Ali Abdelaziz. This little thing going on. Plus, Covington's gonna talk it up, trash talk it, and then on the co-main event, you could have Masvidal and Edwards. You can go into their back fight. They got. I mean, think about this for a second. What other sport have we seen a guy assault somebody, and then people just blow it off like it's another? If there's another sport, if this was Jose Batista and who's the guy who punched him? I'm not the baseball guy who punched him.
Odor is his last name. I don't know.
Yeah. Imagine that was put all over Sports Center. And that was a big deal. And when they faced each other, something that happened. Or Nolan Ryan when he was punching the
Robin Ventura. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why are we moving on? I mean, to me, I think this is gold. But I don't know. I feel like at the welterweight, the championship, you have a 3-fighter problem with Masvidal, with Covington, and with Usman. Well, you kind of solve that problem by putting the 4th element in with Edwards, and the fact that they don't want it, to me, I think is insane. What does this guy have to do? He's won 8 fights in a row. He beat Gunnar Nelson. He just beat RDA. He beat the brakes off. He's looking better every fight, and then he gets assaulted in the back. Now you can say what you want, He walked up to Masvidal. He probably was expecting to get in his face, kind of have some words, get separated. And we've seen that happen how many times with fighters. Edwards wasn't expecting to get a 3-piece in a soda. But you can't give a guy a 3-piece in a soda and then all of a sudden ignore him when the guy says, hey, let's have a fair fight. Let's go in the octagon. It's so funny that people are backlashing against Leon Edwards. Where I come from, you punch a guy in the face and he wants to challenge you at the park one-on-one. You punch him at school and you get separated by the principal and the teachers, and he wants to fight you at the park and you don't want to go, you seem like a bitch. And to me, I know Masvidal wants the title shot. He wants Conor. He's saying all this. But, I mean, Edwards definitely has the right to call out Masvidal. And I can't believe people are backlashing against him. What else is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to call out Tyron Woodley? Is he supposed to call out Robbie Lawler? What is he supposed to do?
Yeah, well, let's look at it like this. I think what's happening now is here's the it seems like everybody's taking Conor's cues, right? Here's one cue they're taking from Conor. He'd fight everybody until he got where he wanted to get. And then it got a little bit harder to get him into the octagon. I think Jorge Masvidal has a little bit of, Conoritis right now, where he has so many opportunities that he doesn't want to ruin them. So it's what's the fight to make without, because obviously the Ben Askren fight you take because, that's punching up. Ben Askren's undefeated, all that. That was an easy call. Now it's you're the hot commodity. Do you wait for a title shot? Do you fight Leon Edwards? If he fights Leon Edwards and loses, first of all, now he loses all the credibility he got punching him in the back, and he loses a title shot. So Leon Edwards, there's a lot to lose there. So I mean, it's a good fight.
I understand why he doesn't want to do it. But don't be all street and being hey, I used to fight on Kimbo Slice's corner. I keep it real. I'm a real fighter and this and that. And then it's not I don't want to fight that guy. Don't even talk about him. Well, either fight him or just be honest and be he is being honest saying, I want a title fight, I want a Conor McGregor. But be honest with me, the risk isn't worth the reward. Well, if you say the risk isn't worth the reward, if you come out and be honest like that, you're saying, hey, this guy might beat me. But you can't, as a fighter, you can't admit that. So, I feel like Masvidal is in a tough situation, but he kind of put himself that way when he walked over and punched him. Now, if he doesn't walk over and punch them, there's a little, words when he walks, Edwards walks by, sets up in, he says, yeah, hey, maybe we'll fight. Then I think we'd all say, yeah, why would Masvidal not do it? But when you walk over and punch the guy, I mean, he didn't walk up to you and then you punched him in defense. You walked over to hit. So, yeah, I'm sorry, man. I know there ain't many media people out saying this, and I know there ain't many fans saying this, but I'm on Edwards' side on this one. I think he deserves a fight, and I feel like on the flip side, this other thing could happen. It could go the other way. The UFC has a very remarkable fight. It could be a main event of a fight night or a ESPN card, or it could be a co-main event of a pay-per-view, on a big pay-per-view. But it could backfire if you put Edwards against, say, Tyron Woodley, or you put Edwards against Ben Askren or whoever, and he loses. Now you lost that matchup too, so it kind of goes both ways.
Right. Yeah, I think part of it is, MMA fans and MMA media as well sometimes can be front runners. And if somebody's perceived by enough of the public to be cool, then it's like we can't push back from that guy. Dana got away with it for years.
Yeah, no,
Masvidal. Right. I mean, I feel like a lot of that's at play here. It's like people are just going to go along with Masvidal because he's kind of the hot commodity right now. He's the guy that's cool, so they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not many.
Leon Edwards is the guy that got punked. You know what I mean?
It's not many people. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Leon Edwards could have had Jorge Masvidal arrested. I mean, if we're being honest, he assaulted the guy. If the police showed up and said, "Hey, you want to press charges?" Jorge Masvidal would have been arrested. Jorge Masvidal should get suspended. He should have. He should have got suspended for that.
Right.
I mean, he went in the back and assaulted somebody. I mean, if here's the difference. Think about this. If Greg Hardy, and we'll get to Greg Hardy, but if Greg Hardy walked up to Daniel Cormier and punched him in the face like that, give him a 3-piece and soda, the reaction would be 100% different. People would be calling him, "Ben, this guy's a thug. He shouldn't be in the UFC. Look how he reacts. He can't act like a professional." Or hey, Masvidal does it and it's cool. Like, oh, he keeps it real. That's a real fighter. You know what I mean? It's
I agree.
I'm the only media member out there saying that Uriah Faber's knockout of Ricky Simon was a fluke. I'm the only person the day after saying it was a fluke. I'm the only one saying, hey, guys, the guy got wobbled in 30 seconds. Some people are calling for a title fight. I'm saying, dude, he should retire. This would be a glory.
Right, he got out lucky, yeah.
And for the rest of his life, he would say, "Oh, I wonder what would have happened if he got fight for the title." Right. You know what would have happened? He would have got knocked out. That's what would have happened.
So let me ask you this. So, a couple things. How much?
I don't want to forget this.
Go ahead.
Because I know we're gonna breeze through the prelims because the prelims were terrible.
Right.
So we'll breeze through the prelims. We're gonna spend the most time on this main event, especially this Masvidal Edwards, because I feel like that's a really big story.
Okay.
Think about this for a second. Everyone's saying Masvidal should get a title fight in this event. Masvidal's on a 2-fight winning streak. He beat Darren Till, who has lost 2 fights in a row. He put Ben Askren. He's undefeated. He's also 1-0 in the UFC. He was a guy, and his one win in the UFC was a very controversial one in the Robbie Lawler one. You got Leon Edwards, who's won 8 fights in a row. If anything, Leon Edwards is almost, taking out all the outside, taking out all the behind the scenes.
You can't do that, though. You can't do that, though. You're being too short-sighted.
I know.
He's on a 3-fight win streak. People count that Edwards thing. They count it, man.
Yeah.
They look at it that way. It doesn't make sense. It's true.
I mean, the thing with this, Edwards getting punched made Masvidal a star. Masvidal wasn't a star until he said 3-piece and a soda.
Right.
That interview with Brett Hunter, sure, he knocked out Darren Till. That was great. He knocked out Donald Trump. But I mean, Rafael Dos Anjos has knocked people out. Bobby Lawler's there's many guys who knock people out. They're not stars. But when he said 3-piece and a soda, it made him a star. Leon Edwards has made Masvidal a star.
Right.
Now he made him level 1 star, and then flying 5-second knockout of Ben Askren made him level 10 star.
Right.
But
I don't know. I think that the perception.
I feel bad for Edwards. I do. I feel bad for the guy.
What percentage? Well, I don't feel bad for him. I don't feel bad for him, and I'll tell you why. Hold on.
Did you see his scar from that?
Yeah.
Yes, because you can actually see the scar that Masvidal gave him. And then this guy's walking around with a scar on his face, and Masvidal's not going to fight him? Come on.
So, all right, let's break down Leon Edwards real quick. Only because, so do you think that, what percentage of MMA fans, and casuals, hardcores, everybody, what percentage of MMA fans based any portion of their belief that Leon Edwards would lose on the fact that he got punked by Jorge Masvidal? Do you think that diminished him in the eyes of fans? Because I think he really gained a lot in this fight by looking so impressive. I think in the fans' mind, they had forgotten the fighter that he was, and they started to perceive him as the person they believe Jorge Masvidal made him out to be, which is trouble for Jorge Masvidal. Hold on, in this respect, because now Jorge Masvidal is not fighting Leon Edwards. Jorge Masvidal, if he fights him, is going to fight the person that everyone thinks Leon Edwards is. And that's a very different guy than the guy that fought RDA last night.
Yeah. I think it's a weird trash talk when you trash talk your opponent and you say, like, it's hard to say that guy sucks, then you beat him. Like, well, you said he sucks, so what's the big deal of beating him?
Exactly. That's the biggest mistake fighters make.
That's why when they win,
their opponent.
That's why they win. Hardly ever you hear a guy say, oh, that guy sucks. It's usually, oh, that guy's tough and he's a stud. Well, because you just beat him and you want to make yourself look better.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I 100% agree. And the funny thing is, his performance against Gunnar Nelson that night. It was Gunnar Nelson, right? It was Gunnar that night. I can't remember who he fought.
The night that he got hit by Masvidal?
Yeah, I think it was.
Go ahead with your point, and I'll check it out.
I'm like 99% sure, but I watched too many. I'm doing the Contender Series previews. I watched too many fights today. But his performance against Gunnar Nelson was good, and he won, and I thought he clearly won. And I think there was a split decision, which it really shouldn't have been. He really clearly won. But it wasn't nearly as impressive as this fight and what he just did to RDA. So it's kind of like, yeah, I think you're right. You win a fight, yeah, most people predicted you win. Then you get a 3-piece Minnesota. You kind of looking like you get punked off. And then he just put the stomping on RDA.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. A lot of people are saying, well, Masvidal doesn't want to give him that fight. He's not going to get the Conor fight, so it comes down to get the title fight. Well, if Colby Covington gets the title fight, I don't know if he's going to, but if he gets the title fight, I feel like Masvidal has no choice to fight him because, one, it's going to look bad if he just sits on the sidelines, especially with Leon Edwards knocking off. But also, people are saying Leon Edwards is not going to be a big star. Imagine if the promo is this quick insert of that whole thing, that Masvidal, quick thing, walking over, little punch. People love that quick behind the scenes, like 2 seconds, what happened. Yeah. That would make the fight so much bigger than it is. I mean, let's be honest. Now, obviously not to the grand scheme, but Conor and Khabib wouldn't have been nearly as big if it wasn't for the Dolly incident.
Yeah.
No, obviously it's Conor. So
no. I mean, that the thing that they were so opposed to, right? That's what makes me laugh. I mean, that they were all like, Conor, why was you this? Conor broke rules, and the next thing you know, they're showing it in the promos.
Yeah, it would have made over 1 million buys because it's Conor, but it wouldn't have set pay-per-view records if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't the backstory, if it wasn't even Khabib's reaction where he's pointing at the camera saying, like, you're going to pay for this, send me location, all that. Yeah. Like, that's why I'm like, if you got good marketing, then you could really sell this fight into a big one.
That's true, man. I think it's there. I mean, I don't. The only problem is the guy that you need to come to the table is the guy that can lose the most, and that's Masvidal. He's the only one. Obviously, Edwards wants to fight. Obviously, the UFC wants to fight. They're really gonna have to put some money in that kid's pocket, man, and tell him, listen, a title shot ain't happening. Just tell him right to his face, you're never gonna get a title shot. You have not earned it. It's never gonna happen. It's too low to the top of this division. You might. The only way you get him is you give him a shitload of money and you tell him the only way you get the title shot is by beating Leon Edwards. That's it. You make it part of the deal.
Unfortunately, supposedly they told him already, if you beat Aspen, you get a title shot. I don't know how true that is, but that's what he's claiming.
Yeah.
But think about this. Time really kind of makes everyone forget, because you take Colby Covington a year earlier. You know how I was talking about Masvidal? Maybe not to the same level Masvidal I talked about, but Colby Covington for about a 2-month span was who everybody was talking about.
Right.
He was in the news. He was the guy everyone was talking. And then all of a sudden he was gone for a year and he wasn't being as active. And this kind of videos kind of got cornier and cornier, and you kind of got used to him. Like, oh yeah, we saw you with the hot chick in a car. Like, people get used to it. And then he kind of got forgotten about. Masvidal sits on the sidelines, and Covington wins, and Covington talks up a match with Usman, and they really like get into this hot heat. You know, really get into it. Managers get involved, and Colby Covington says something very controversial, whatever. People are gonna forget about Masvidal.
Yeah, I agree. I just think, the mistake Colby Covington made is, and one thing people forget about Chael Sonnen all those years, he was actually funny. I mean, the guy was funny. He did some stuff that was kind of played here and there, but he was funny. Colby Covington was never really. He went from being controversial.
He did something funny.
He turned himself into a cartoon character. And Masvidal, I don't see doing that, so it's a little bit different, but we'll see. You never know. All right.
He's had some funny lines, but he's gone like too over the top of WWF. Like, he seems. Do you remember back in the day when, like, a wrestler came into? I don't know if you ever watched wrestling, but I used to watch in like the '80s, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that's when I watched.
Yeah. Well, do you remember when, like, guys used to come to the organization? There'd be like 6 weeks promos of them before they come.
Yeah.
I remember one when Mr. Perfect came in and he was like,
shooting hoops behind his
he take a basketball throw over his head and go.
Mm-hmm.
It was like so corny. Like no one really thinks he threw a basketball over his head.
$1 Million Man to do the same thing before he came in. He was behind everybody.
That's what I feel like Colby Covington's. He's like doing that 1980s over the top girl in the bathtub, like he's like ravishing, recruiting it. He's like the. Yeah, that's
but it's so processed is the problem. Like Israel Adesanya's Instagram and what Colby Covington's doing is completely different. Israel Adesanya, it seems like, okay, I'm somewhere and I'm gonna do some cool shit. Colby Covington, it's like I hired this girl, I got this room. It's so contrived. I think that's why people are seeing right through it. That's
why people are doing the same with Cejudo.
Yep, I agree.
But then it's weird because some dummies out there actually believe it's real. That's the funny thing.
Right.
Like, there's people out there who think Colby Covington really acts this way. It's like, oh, did you forget Colby Covington like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, you remember Colby Covington holding the sign "We'll fight for food" on this, or Chael Sonnen? Chael Sonnen was a journeyman whose highlight of his career was beating Paulo Filho in WEC, and he was never like this big trash talking guy. Henry Cejudo stayed there. Now there's people out there who actually believe that Henry Cejudo called for a fight with Amanda Nunes,
right?
Instead of him just joking.
Here's the healthy way, I think, in my opinion, and we'll move on to the co-main event, but here's the healthy way, I think, to process these guys, is that you can't take them too seriously, but what they are saying is reason enough for you to want to see the person who they said it about to punch them in the face. That's the whole point, right? It's not that I'm taking Chael Sonnen smacking Anderson Silva's wife on the ass seriously. It's that's a reason enough for me to want to watch him fight Anderson Silva so that he has to stand in front of Anderson Silva having said that. So I think that's the mistake people are making. Like, just don't take Tyron Woodley and Henry Cejudo all that seriously. But when they say something about somebody, like the stuff with TJ Dillashaw, I thought some of the stuff with Cejudo and Dillashaw was a little bit corny. But the fact that he smashed a fake snake right in front of him, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see these guys in the octagon after that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Before we move on, give me your best Chael Sonnen line. What was your favorite line you ever said?
My best Chael Sonnen line was, you know what? And I'm kind of biased because I do this with my wife all the time. This joke, which is he was talking to Ara Hawani, and he said, "Is this camera big enough?" And Ara Hawani said, "For what?" And he goes, "For the biggest arms in Westland, Oregon." That and the Tito Jenna Jameson line, which is kind of new. Those two.
My favorite one ever was when he said, being a wrestler, I'm going to put Anderson Silva on his back. Anderson Silva's going to be on his back more than a porn star with a mortgage. That was my favorite.
That was good. And then he said one, because I tweeted out a while ago something about Paul Daly always seeming like he's sitting right next to him for the best ones. But it was like, he said something about like I'm overtrained, underpaid, blah, 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 and still tough enough to beat this guy. Something like that. And I was like, he's had some good ones, man. And Colby Covington is nowhere near him. Colby Covington is like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the co-main event. Keith, a couple of top 15 heavyweights who may be, spoiler alert, on a collision with Greg Hardy, and neither man has taken the Greg Hardy fast lane to the top of the heavyweight rankings. Oleinik took forever to get to the UFC, and Harris had a couple of bad showings early, made his way back to Titan FC before coming back. But you know the rules, Keith. The intros are never longer than the fights. So Walt Harris put Alexei Oleinik to sleep, read him a story, tucked him in, kissed his forehead, all of it, and in 12 seconds... has the big ticket figured it out, or is Oleinik just washed?
Well, when you ask me one of those one way or the other questions, you know what my answer is always going to be.
A little bit of both.
Somewhere in the middle. Harris was a guy that everyone gave up, myself included, when he first came to the UFC. He got this terrible start, and then he got caught, came back. And since he's come back, he's looked like a different man. He's a guy that he got into MMA late. He's a great athlete. He was a college basketball player and all this. And he's been learning on the job, and now he gets it. And, this guy is extremely athletic. He hits very hard. He moves like a welterweight at heavyweight. And Oleinik is also at Oleinik's 42 years old. He's got 71 fights in his career. That's a lot. So he's also at that age where he could fall off the cliff at any time. You can only press the age so much. It's like, Max Kellerman always says about Tom Brady. He doubles down every single year saying, oh, Tom Brady, this is the year. Tom Brady's going to be washed up. This is the year. And And everyone in New England gets all pissed off. And I go, yeah, you know why he keeps saying that? Because one year he's going to be right. I mean, it's going to happen to him.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Brady's not going to play till 110 years old. It's going to happen. Then Max telling him, see, I told you. Well, you've been predicted for 5 years now. So it's like, the terrible thing is, I don't know if you saw what happened. Olynyk broke his leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, he broke. I don't know what he broke, but this guy is 42 years old, just turned 42. He's had 71 fights. I kind of hope this is the last we see of him because he's never going to win a title. He's never going to get back in the top 5. Probably not in the top 10. He's got enough fights. Move on. He's a submission specialist. He probably could be a pretty good coach one day. That's what I'd like to see him do.
Yeah, I see him kind of going on the Polaris, EBI, submission underground. That's his path.
Yeah, he could.
But what about Walt Harris? I mean, do you see him like this heavyweight division is so crazy. It's like we got studs at the top, right? That are there, and then we got a couple of guys in the middle that we're not sure about. Curtis Blades, Walt Harris. We got a couple of guys we're still trying to figure out, and then we got Greg Hardy, who's the other unknown we're about to talk about here. Who just when you think, and I would include Juan Adams in the aforementioned. He's not quite Blades and Harris yet, but he was still kind of someone that we thought we had something in. Again, we'll get to Greg Hardy in a second, but what do you think? Do you think Walt Harris is got a run in him or what?
In a weird sense, I think he might. I mean, when you talk about the levels, you got DC and Stipe up on the very top. I think Nagano's put himself in that position. If John Jones moved up to heavyweight, he would be in that position. And then there's like that gap for the next one. So Overeem's, the Dos Santos, the Derek Lewis's, the Curtis Blades, I put Walt Harris right in that category. And I believe this. I believe he could beat every single one guy on that list. He could also lose to every single guy on the list. Now, could I be overreacting to a 15-second knockout? I might be. But we've seen potential. I mean, he moves. There's a lot of things you got to like about him. And I've always said this. Heavyweight is the position where pure athleticism can overcome so much more. No other weight class can do that except for heavyweight. And Walt Harris has it, and he's getting better every fight. I'd like to see. I think that Walt Harris versus Derek Lewis would be a fun fight in his next fight. I think that'd be a proper test for him. Two big guys throwing bombs.
I mean, I agree. And more to your point, though, I mean, when you talk about heavyweight, I mean, look, Brendan Schaub was a heavyweight. Matt Mitrione was a heavyweight. Greg Hardy's a heavyweight. When you talk about pure athleticism and that overcoming a lot of things, I mean, the fact that I have to say and be truthful about it, that Brendan Schaub beat Crow Cop is a problem for me. But it happened. There's nothing I could do about it. And it's the fact that what you just said. Once you get up that high, and we'll talk about this with respect to the Arlovsky-Rothwell fight. Once you get up with those big boys, man, anything can happen. So, like you said, if Olynyk kind of rides off into the sunset, we find. But, as I'm sitting here looking at the heavyweight rankings, it's just crazy. It's like you said. It's Stipe Francis Jr., Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis. So we have, and then Alexander Volkov, Overeem, Velasquez. Now Olynyk's going to drop. Blagoy Ivanov, Tai Tuivasa, Marcin Chibora, Walt Harris. So it's like some guys we don't know how much they got left, and some guys we don't know what they have yet. So it's
right. So let's do a quick guys, because I know we're gonna probably after Hardy we're not gonna talk much about the other fights. So you just mentioned Harris. Who was the guy? And I know the rankings haven't changed. Who's the guy directly above him?
Marcin Tybura.
I would take Harris to win. Would you?
Yeah. Tuivasa.
Harris.
Ivanov.
Harris.
Abdurakhimov.
That's a tough one because he's very technical. But I think I'd take Harris.
The guy above him's Olynyk. Now we're getting into Kane, Alistair. Do you think that they're either so far past their prime or Harris has progressed enough?
I think that's the right range right there. Like if you told me Cain Velasquez is coming back, I mean Cain is such a wild card. So let's put Cain to the side because he's too much of a wild card. And I'm the biggest Cain fanboy, but I'm starting to get off that wagon. His body's just not holding up. Who's the next guy above Cain?
Alistair Overeem. You're writing this guy big checks.
That's the era.
You're writing him big checks, Keith. I mean, if you're going to write him these big checks, he should be either beating your prospects or putting them over. So, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to write these checks, I don't want to see him fighting.
Yeah, if I'm the UFC though, Walt Harris, that's the guy. Like this was a good thing for the UFC that Walt Harris won because you can kind of build him. You can't build Olenek at this point. If Walt Harris fought over him, I think at this point, if I'm the UFC, I'm probably rooting for Harris to
Yeah.
kind of build that.
You can't build Olenek. You're right. Listen,
No,
Olenek is 7 days younger than me. To put that in perspective, but
over him at this point, we all know. We're gonna say great fighter, Strikeforce champion, K1 champion. We're gonna say one of the best guys to never won a UFC title.
But you can. Here's the thing about Alistair Overeem is that you can put Alistair Overeem against Walt Harris, and that could co-main event a pay per view. I mean, that's almost a big enough fight. Do you know what I'm saying? Overeem's got the name. Harris.
It could main event a regular fight night card.
That's what I mean. This is what you need to be doing with Walt Harris right now.
Yeah, if you put Walt Harris in, I mean, I don't know what the card is, but you throw that card like he's asking for Abu Dhabi, you get Walt Harris or Derek Lewis or Junior Dos Santos against Overeem or one of these guys against Walt Harris in the Abu Dhabi that he's asking for. Yeah, that's a main, at least a main card fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the path for Walt Harris. All right, let's move on. Keith, there isn't much to say about Greg Hardy that hasn't already been said, except for this. While everyone has been busy hating him, he's been busy becoming a high-level fighter. Juan Adams may have slept on him, and it got him finished. Keith, I wasn't crazy about the stoppage, but I will say this. If you are Adams, you have to do something. Got to do something. What'd you think about the stoppage, and where do you see Hardy right now? Top 10, top 15, top 20?
The stoppage, I was 100% fine with it. I can't remember who was it. Herb Dean was the referee? I think it was Herb Dean, or maybe it was Dan Murray. Yeah, Dan Murray was the he kept warning Adams, you got to move, you got to show me something, and he was just ducking his head. And you can't take punches from I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Daniel Cormier. I don't care if you're Brock Lesnar. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a freaking gorilla. You can't be sitting there taking punches from a guy who's 266 pounds, elite athlete like Greg Hardy, and take punch after punch and the punch. I mean, they weren't standing up, they weren't because he was defending a takedown. But if he's landing at 60% power, that's a lot of shots that, I mean, that could kill Juan Adams if he just keeps getting punched like that. Like, literally kill him. I mean, Greg Hardy could kill somebody with punches to the face over and over and over again. So, yeah, I'm totally okay with stoppage. Where do I rank him? I don't put him in the top 15 yet. I put him in the next tier down. But, I mean, here's the thing about 2 fights ago when he was fighting Alan Crowder, everyone was making fun of him. Like, oh, he can't fight. You can't make fun of him now. And here's the thing is now everyone's calling Juan Adams a tomato can. He wasn't that good. When the UFC announced that Juan Adams was fighting Greg Hardy, how many people were saying, oh, here's the fight here's the guy that can beat Greg Hardy. Here's the guy that can expose him. He's a big wrestler, NCAA wrestler. He's big. He's just as big as Greg Hardy. He's fast. He's this and that. And all of a sudden, Greg Hardy runs through him, and now Juan Adams sucks. It's like, no, because you don't want to give Greg Hardy credit. Now, is Greg Hardy a scumbag? Yeah, he's a wicked scumbag. I mean, he's a terrible person. But he's a good fighter, and he's shown it. And, I mean, this guy is so good and improving. He's only 30 years old. And at heavyweight, he can have another 15 years in the UFC. So, and here's the thing about the UFC, he generates people talking. When they went to Sports Center right afterwards, they didn't lead with Edwards. They actually led with Greg Hardy's knockout. And then they went to Edwards. The ticker was talking about Greg Hardy. It's a good thing. As much as people hate, and a lot of people don't admit it, Greg Hardy being in the UFC is a good thing for the UFC. It brings a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, I think that I'm trying to figure out what the formula is to beat Greg Hardy, because I feel like you have to. Now, I think Juan Adams is a good fighter. I think he was a little bit young, but I think that. Listen, man, I don't know. I'm not crazy about guys that I perceive not to be taking their career seriously. And I think Adams has a little bit too much fun to be taking his career seriously. Now, I could be wrong about that. I'm just saying this is my perception from the outside.
Sure.
But my point is that I think that the guy to beat Greg Hardy is one of two things. Either twice as technical or equally as tenacious. And he hasn't ran into anyone who was equally tenacious to him or twice as technical yet. Or even not even twice as technical. Even 1.5 times as one of those two things. You either need to be able to withstand what Greg Hardy is with technique or tenacity. And those guys probably reside in the top 10, Keith.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this guy, he throws hard every punch. So he could totally gas himself. If you could withstand that flurry and gas himself out, get him deep in the waters, but you got to be a tough son of a bitch to be sitting there taking those punches from him, and you got to have a hard melon because he's going to throw hard. I mean, there's a guy, a friend of mine, MMA Takeover. He's a European guy, and he talks shit about the NFL because he's a European guy. He says they're not as good athletes as soccer players, stupid shit like that. And it's like, no, you just don't understand the level of athlete that it takes to get to the NFL. And now you're seeing the level of athlete. This guy's gone in with 1 year MMA training, and now we're talking about him possibly in the top 15. And this wasn't Brock Lesnar, who was an NCAA wrestler, an NCAA champion wrestler. This is a guy with no combat sports experience that's doing this. Man, and here, you got to cut this and send it to Mike Heck.
Okay.
The last question
41
on this
41 of the podcast. Gotcha.
The last question on this week's Between the Links, Mike Heck asked, "What's the biggest story heading into?" And I said, "Greg Hardy, biggest ass, blah blah." He rose through it. I said, "Now that once he wins, people can't say he can't fight anymore. You can say whatever you want about him as a person. You can't talk shit about his fighting anymore. He's a good fighter." And then my boy Craig came up with some stupid fight. I think it was Alex Hernandez, the lowest terrible card. So this just shows that I should have won that, and he gave the win to Craig. So I'm still bitter about that because clearly everyone's talking about Greg Hardy. They're not talking about Alex Hernandez. So, Mike, you suck.
So the big takeaway from that for fans of both Between the Links and Sunday Morning Cornerman is that Keith never lets these things go. Just in case you're wondering what to take away from that, Keith takes these things to the very end. I'm sure somewhere there's a notebook with all the things that have been said on Between the Links. And so
yeah,
listen.
Wait till I bring up one like 2. Remember 2 years ago when I said this?
You should.
Look what happened now. I should have won. Go back, give me that win.
You should. You're like some of those guys on Around the Horn. You're a little bit like Jay Mariani, but you're much more likable. Okay, so listen, I'm with you. So what do we do with this guy? I mean, I got people. So all right, some people are on our Periscope, and one guy said you take Greg Hardy in deep waters. It's hard to get him there.
Yeah. It's like
how do you get Greg Hardy in deep waters?
That's like saying, oh, you take away the reach advantage of John Jones. Yeah, that's great, but that's hard to do. Now, I don't know who said that. I 100% agree with it. If you can get Hardy to the deep waters, you're going to win. So whoever said that, I'm not bashing you. I'm with you. You're 100% correct. It's just hard to do. I mean, good luck. You better be a tough son of a bitch.
Let me ask you a question. Were you surprised that how well he handled that takedown? Surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah, I am surprised. Yeah.
You know what though? Here's the thing. Listen, I'm not comparing.
Good. He's good.
Keith, listen to me. I'm not comparing high-level wrestling to football, but I will say this. If there's anything that would prepare you to understanding high-level wrestling, playing defensive line playing offensive line is probably better, but playing defensive line is about as good as the skill set that you would need to play defensive line effectively lends itself well to being a good wrestler. Can we agree on that?
The explosion, the
angles you have to take,
balance, explosion,
getting people's hands off of you.
I mean, Hardy's
he's got a skill set that people are sleeping on. I think they just think he's a maniac that runs. They think that because he's only a striker, that's not what he did in the NFL. He had to get past people to get to a quarterback. And that skill set lends itself well to what he's doing now. And now I'll say one more thing about Greg Hardy that I think is sort of gets forgotten often, and I think it shouldn't be. He is coached primarily by Dean Thomas, and there are not a lot of people I respect more than Dean Thomas in this game. And I'm here to tell you, I've spoken to Dean Thomas a little bit. He's not the kind of guy that's going to waste his time with somebody. that there's not a reason. That either he is still, listen, I don't really think that Greg Hardy seems like someone who's improving his attitude all that much, but he must be bringing something else to the gym, because Dean wouldn't put up with that shit, and he sure wouldn't waste his time coaching. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that's something.
I 100.
He is being coached very well.
He's at American top team. There's killers in that gym. I mean, everyone's saying nice things about him, saying his work ethic is there, his diet is on point. This guy's trying to change his life around. Maybe he is.
I think he's a different guy in the gym. I think he's playing us a little bit.
Yeah, I think he is too. I think he's a scumbag. I think he is a scumbag, but maybe he isn't. Maybe he's changing things around.
Well, I'll put it to you like this.
Now, listen, if you're watching the show and you go like, oh, don't defend a woman beater, listen, first of all, don't say I'm defending them. If you are, fuck you. I do more for domestic violence victims than you've ever done in your life. I'm a police officer in the city. I've arrested people with domestic violence all the time, so shut the fuck up. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. No. I think that there could be two schools of thought here. Is that I don't think that being a fighter in the UFC is good for Greg Hardy as a person. I think that making your living fighting is not good for someone with a domestic violence past. With that being said, I think being a member of American Top Team is good for you as far as being a shithead. I think that helps you.
Yes.
I think that's a good place to be if that's the kind of guy you are. Because in an American Top Team, you're not the baddest guy when you walk into that gym. I don't care what you say.
No.
So that's my point.
I know.
I think American Top Team's good for him. I don't know if fighting is.
Yeah, you got mentors like Dean Thomas,
Mike Brown, Conan Silveira,
Conan Silveira,
Tyron Woodley,
King Mo. I mean, these are good people. These are good human beings,
right?
And they're good mentors. And maybe directing some of that anger towards punching a punching bag, doing something, maybe that does help. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know anything of that shit. But what I think, if I am a marketer, I am going the complete opposite route with Greg Hardy than the way UFC is doing, the way his manager's doing. He is the bad guy. No matter what he does, people are booing him. Just go straight heel. Like, John Jones became a bigger star when he stopped. Remember when John Jones was always doing that, like, I love Jesus, I don't talk. And then also be calling him behind the camera talking shit to the camera. He didn't think it was on. And then you couldn't plead really goody two-shoes anymore. Like, Greg Hardy should just go full heel. Like, I don't say don't glorify domestic violence or anything like that, but you're like, I'm a loose cannon. Go Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson went crazy and just go it. Like, I want to eat your children and shit. Like, he should do that. And
you know what? It's interesting you brought up Mike Tyson, because Mike Tyson's the only person to really lean into it. Most of the guys who played the bad guy, it was done knowing they were kind of a good guy. Greg Hardy, he's known to be a bad guy. Or let me put it the other way to you. Let me put it the other way to you. Most of the guys who are bad guys are publicly good guys. Abel Trujillo, Anthony Johnson. No one's been a public bad guy and a private bad guy except for Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see if Hardy goes that route. So I don't
know.
To
that star, I mean, there was guys like Mayhem Miller was always, but he was crazy. He wasn't a bad guy. He was crazy. Right. And
Hardy could be too.
Charles Bennett is crazy, but he was like funny. Like, and then, Charles Bennett has done really bad things to people, but like he's funny. Like so we would ignore it. Yeah.
But Hardy's the only one where it's
like talked about. I got the perfect matchup. The perfect matchup for Greg Hardy.
What do you got?
Now, I don't think this fight could happen. I don't even know what this guy's doing. I think he's doing WF. But how great would this fight be? Greg Hardy versus Travis Brown.
That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting.
I mean, come on, man. Listen, if I'm in charge of UFC, I'm calling up Travis Brown. I'm getting him to come fight for me against Greg Hardy.
I'm going to ask you this and take a second to think about it. Travis Brown, in as long as he's been out, okay, but with a full camp, knowing who he was. Like, he was a legit top 5 heavyweight at his best. Okay, mm-hmm. This is Ronda Rousey was fucking Yoko Ono for Travis Brown. Just so we're clear. Once Ronda came around, that guy couldn't fight anymore. But at his best,
it might be the other way around too. Though.
At his best, he was. I mean, listen, the end of the career is horrible. But it's Velasquez Verdum, Lewis, Olynyk. It wasn't chumps.
Yeah, Derek. Yeah, studs.
But in his prime, it was Gonzaga, Overeem, Barnett.
Mitrione,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Mitrione, yeah,
He was beating studs in his prime. So, full camp, but hasn't fought in, let's see, July 8th of 2017. Hasn't fought in a clean 2 years.
2 years.
Full camp. Him against Greg Hardy. Who do you got? Who's the favorite? Who's Vegas make the favorite? Let's start there.
So this is why I wanted to fight. Because it's not if Travis Brown was so washed up, well, Greg Hardy's going to kill him. It's not appealing. But if he was so far ahead and he's a top 5 guy, then it's not appealing. I mean, like if I said, hey, let's say Stipe didn't have a fight, but I said, hey, Stipe versus Greg Hardy, be like, oh, come on, yeah, the guy's a great athlete, but he's going to get killed. He's going to get Stipe. Like it fits in that realm where we don't know. So who would be the favorite? It's going to be as close to a pick 'em as they come, I think.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Man, at this point, I might just go with Hardy because Brown was never a good wrestler, and obviously he'd have to keep him at bay with the kicks. But Brown's chin has been checked a lot, and he's been rocked a lot.
He's still 6'8", though.
He's 6'8". Yeah. That's another aspect. 6'8". How big is Hardy? Like 6'5", something like that. 265. I mean, Brown's a little smaller, but 250, 265.
Here's where it gets interesting. Remember when Brown was on that run?
Domestic violence.
Yes.
Like 3. That's why I thought of it.
Remember when Brown was on that run where he was always finding guys with the elbows? Like guys would get him up against the fence, he'd blast those elbows. That'd be interesting. Because, if Hardy went to lean on him, Brown's good with his knees.
You tell me that's not – listen, there's people watching that right now probably like, why are we even talking about that? That fight's not going to happen. No, seriously. That's
fuck them.
Because why is it going to happen?
That's why we're talking about it.
He's probably going to fight Chuvasi, or he's probably going to fight.
Yeah, so then when that fight happens, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, but
this one ain't happening, so we're talking about it now. It's fun.
You tell me this is not the perfect matchup.
It is. It's interesting. Yeah,
it's a perfect matchup.
Yeah, I agree.
And it makes sense. It's not like, hey, it makes sense. It fits in that. I love it. That's the fight I want. I want Greg Hardy, Travis Brown. That's the fight I want.
Let's start a GoFundMe. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
All right. Keith, big things are happening over at City Boxing. Israel Adesanya has a middleweight unification bout, and despite Dan Hooker stumbling last time out against Edson Barbosa, he's on a 5-1 streak of his own. Saturday night, he drew James Vick, a guy who once showed some promise until the ghost of Christmas future. Justin Gaethje exposed him, and then it's been all downhill. In fairness to Vick, he's been fighting studs, Gaethje, Paul Felder, and now Dan Hooker. These are not easy fights, but tonight he caught a tornado in Texas, and the hangman put his ass on a noose. Keith, it looks like a case of two guys passing on the ladder, one going up, one going down. What do we have in Hooker, and is this the beginning of the end for Vick?
I think Daniel Hooker's really good. I think he's very good. His range, his size, his height, his range, he's improving. Barboza was like that first early loss. I mean, I know he's got ultimate losses, but there's always that guy when he's coming up the range that like loses the fight, and you kind of look back and like, yeah, that was a little too quick for the guy. It was too much for him. I mean, think about Eddie Alvarez when he lost to Donald Cerrone, and then he won on the title run. I kind of feel like that. I'm not saying Daniel Hooker's going to turn on a title run, but he's good, and he deserves to be in the rankings or near the rankings, near the top 15, and he deserves to fight a top 15-ish opponent next. I'd rather focus on James Vick right now. I think James Vick needs to make 2 major changes. He needs to go up to 170. I know he likes being the biggest guy, this and that. The weight cut's been terrible. And how much – I mean, we say this every week. How much evidence do you need that moving up is a good thing? We've seen fighter after fighter after fighter changing guys on long losing streaks. I think about this. People are talking about Anthony Pettis as a contender at welterweight. Remember the long streak of losses he was at lightweight? And I think he needs to change his gym. He still does the same defense. He pulls his head straight back, keeps on the center line, and he's working with Lloyd Irvin, who we can talk about how bad of a person that guy is. I mean, he's in the Greg Hardy room, but that's besides the point. But they're not talking about taking your head off the center line. He just does he has his fights the same rhythm. And Daniel Hooker got his timing down. It seemed like immediately. Like he had his timing as soon as the fight started. He was timing every punch. I mean, I think that work does probably a little bit. He probably spars a lot with Israel Adesanya, tall, long, kind of build to James Vick. And one thing else I want to say before we move on is, you know how I'm always talking about how great of a job 47A is?
Don't wait. No, stop. Wait. You have to. This is why I'm laughing. Because the next thing that was going to come out of my mouth was I was going to start asking you a bunch of questions on where James Vick could possibly go. And I was like, is there any other gym in Texas that I was completely going to lob it up for you.
Well,
go ahead.
He trains in South Carolina. But he could. Yeah, Fortis MMA. That'd be a great move for him. But what I was going a different route with Fortis MMA. I say every single week you watch a show, I talk up how great of a job they're doing at Fortis MMA. I don't think I've given City Kickboxing enough credit. They might be my number 2. They might be my second favorite gym because they're. And I'm not saying Fortis MMA is the best gym, but how good have they done? I don't think I'd give enough City Kickboxing because this is a team that no one was talking about 2 years ago that has Israel Adesanya fighting for the title, Volkanovski, Hooker. I mean, a whole bunch of guys right in contention. I don't give City Kickboxing enough credit.
Yeah, well, we got our Fortis MMA mention out of the way, so that was good. And listen, we keep talking about this, and we're either going to do it as a legit podcast or a show like this, or we're going to do it as an article. You and I need to carve out some time when you're not watching, guys fight on camera phones. I want us to look at the landscape and see who needs to go where. What guy needs a new gym, and where should he go? That'd be an interesting show.
We could do it like. I got tickets to WF free tickets one day about a year or so ago, and I went to it. And this guy at my work was really into it, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to this one?" And he goes, "It's the trade one." He goes, "It's when guys from one league goes to the other." I don't know what I'm talking about. If you're a wrestler, I could be way off. But guys went from one league to another league, and they do it all in one night. It's a big deal. It's once a year. Like that could be our thing.
I think that's the
trading guys. Like, hey, Fortis MMA sends this guy over to this team, and that team gets this guy.
So, but that's what you do? I mean, honestly, would you send him to Fortis, or would you put him somewhere else?
Vic,
I think it keeps the brand. I mean, he's a Texas guy, right?
I think, it makes a lot of sense. I think Dwayne Lowe would be really good with him. He can he needs someone to focus. I don't know who really focuses on head move. Edmund Taverdian, head movement. That's that's who he needs to go. He needs to go with Edmund and work on his head movement.
I don't know how active Cruz is anymore in the over at Alliance. That might be a good one.
Alliance is a really good team.
Ludwood would be good. Maybe Alpha Male. I mean, they got some guys over there.
I think Rufus over at he's just not a really jiu-jitsu heavy team. He needs to be with a very boxing head movement focus.
One thing you see only here and there, I wish I saw more, was guys switching camps like amicably. Usually it's like some gym drama or people feel obligated. I get that. You live in a place, you feel obligated. But I wish more you would see guys that were like, I suck at this, and this gym is great at this.
Yeah.
Let me go there.
It does happen a lot. It's just because there's no drama, we don't hear about it.
That makes sense.
I mean,
that's true. All right, let's move on. Keith, let's talk Alexander Hernandez and Francisco Trinaldo. I really wanted to throw a good intro at this, but I hated this fight. Now I'm half a casual, and you're the hardest of the hardcores. Did I miss something here, or was Alexander the Great any more than just Alexander the Okay? And did Cerrone wreck this kid mentally like Gaethje did Vic? I mean, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, it was he was so gun shy, and but Trinaldo didn't do much to help himself. I scored the fight for Trinaldo. I gave him, I think, 29-20, and I think 11 out of 13. I went to MMA decisions. 11 out of 13 media members gave it to Trinaldo. So a lot of people believe that was a bad decision. But Hernandez seemed to me like both of them really were fighting not to lose. And he kept talking about before the fight that he came out too strong against Cerrone. He needed to be patient. Well, we talked about that pendulum swing, and he went the other direction. And, he looked terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he did. And I don't know. I don't really know I don't know if he was too hyped up to begin with. He just was a weird mix for me. I mean, listen, sometimes I think the UFC matchmakers are looking for something in a fight. And this one, I don't know what they saw, but what they got was two guys that wanted to counterfight, and neither one of them wanted to initiate. And Cruz brought up some good points, and we'll get to Cruz later because I thought he did really well on this broadcast. But Cruz brought up some good points in that he was talking about, listen, sometimes you have to feint a guy into allowing you to counter him. And there wasn't any of that either. They both just kind of were staring at each other like two, cats that wanted to fight or something, and neither one of them wanted to make. It was just odd. And to me, I would expect more. What I mean by Hernandez being a weird mix, and you know me and the analogies, I'm going to throw one at you, which you'll probably hate and destroy immediately, but here it is. He looked a little bit like Dominic Cruz with his footwork and a little bit like Rory McDonald with what he was throwing, and it just didn't work. You know, he was moving too much to not be hitting, and then he was looking for like you and I talk about like guys admiring their work. I don't know if he was admiring his work so much as he was just waiting for like the right shot to be there. And it's like, dude, just throw him. Let's get going. You know, you're moving around enough. You should be, piecing this guy up. It seemed like he was wasting all that movement. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Good movement just to move is not a good thing. You should have purpose. Hernandez, he came into this fight ranked 13th in the UFC rankings. Could he actually fall out of the UFC rankings with a win?
That'd be interesting.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if they would do that, but yeah, I don't think
Vic
so.
is going out, and I think Hooker's not in the top 50. He's coming in. So there's one. I mean, I don't have the rankings. I don't have a list of fighters in front of me, but I'm trying to think there's somebody else who could come in and knock Hernandez out of the rankings. That would be – that's interesting. I'd like to see. Let's keep an eye on the rankings when they come out, see if he gets bumped with it. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it like theoretically Sherdog's rankings that might have like a website that follows this stuff close and has guys that are like, and this is not to disparage the UFC rankings. Enough people have done that, and this certainly isn't to credit them. But typically they kind of fall in line with whatever Sometimes I feel like when they do the UFC rankings, they get a ballot that's just like what the UFC wants the rankings to be, and at the bottom there's a checkbox. If you agree with this, check here, and they just sign it. That's just faster to agree with it. What's the point in arguing? So that's what I feel. So I mean, I think Sherdog would maybe make a move like that, or other.
He wasn't in our rank, so I'm on the rankings summit, and he's not in our rankings to begin with. So I just want to point. And anytime we can mention the Sherdog rankings, always a good thing. So if you want more accurate rankings, head over to Sherdog. I am not saying it's perfect. I argue every single week. For one thing. I don't want to bash my coworkers, but there's one guy in the pound-for-pound rankings that I think is way too low. I'm not going to say his name. We'll just say he has the most wins, most title defenses in the history of the UFC, but I'm not going to mention his name. I think he's way too low. But everything else is pretty accurate.
There you go. See, this is why we need a Patreon, so that you could tease things and then we don't say them, and you go, head over to go behind the paywall. Keith will tell you the guy he was talking about. That's the next move.
I think most people can figure out who I'm talking about.
That's how we're going to monetize this thing, Keith. You just teasing things and then we reveal them on the Patreon. All right,
I get outruled by some of the greatest minds in MMA. There's a lot of great minds over there on the team.
I like how you clean that up. All right, Keith.
Yeah.
When most of our listeners were in short pants, Andrei Arlovski was the baddest man on the planet, and Ben Rothwell was the baddest man in the IFL. Saturday night, these two ran it back. They first fought under the Affliction banner almost 11 years ago to the day, with Arlovski getting the first round TKO. And while this fight wasn't quite The Godfather 2, you can make a case for Lethal Weapon 2 or maybe Ocean's 12. Not a bad sequel. Maybe even a better all-around fight, honestly. The fight was back and forth throughout, although mostly Arlovski's fight. I want to say Rothwell kept him honest, if that makes sense. Keith, tell me what you saw, and do we have anything in Andrei Arlovski moving forward, or is he just better than Ben Rothwell?
Well, first of all, the big thing about Arlovski, we talked about his chin being a problem. He's made it to 8 decisions in a row, and I want to credit Eddie Mercado at Bloody Elbow, who had the tweet of the night when he said, Andrei Arlovski's chin might be the greatest comeback in MMA history. So that was very nice. Good job, Eddie.
Good work, Eddie.
You know what? Rothwell looks done to me. He looked like he was slow. He had that PED suspension. He's been out for a while. He's up there at age of the fight forever. He's got a million fights on his belt. He looks very slow. And Arlovski looked great. He was tagging him with both hands, moving in and out, his footwork. We've counted out Arlovski before. I don't want to get too excited. I mean, he's won 2 fights out of his last 12, or 3 fights out of his last 12, something like that. So I don't want to get too excited, but this is the best he's looked in a really long time. Yeah. So good for him.
He looks sharp. And I think they said he had a new boxing coach. He's an American Top Team as well. So There's another guy. I mean, it's not like.
Now maybe James Vick should get with that guy.
Well, this does make for a very interesting conversation that we could have, bringing our old friend in quotes in. What do you think about Arlovsky and Hardy? They're teammates. We may never see it. But
I wouldn't even think about this. That's not gonna. I mean, it could happen.
Listen, Keith. First of all,
it's American top team.
Let me put you in check, for Christ's sakes. We talked 10 minutes about Hardy fighting Travis Brown. You can't give me 10 seconds on Hardy fighting Arlovsky?
Like, who would win?
No, if they should, could they fight? Yeah, Travis Brown's been retired for 2 years. You won't even humor me with the Arlovsky fight?
No, yeah. I mean, that fight, yeah. I mean,
let's say he was at a different gym. Would it make sense? Is that the guy to really? Yes. At this point, can he test Hardy? Yes or no?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's a former world champion. He's a Sambo. I think he was a world champion in Sambo. And he definitely. I mean, there's a big size discrepancy. I mean, Arlovsky's a smaller heavyweight. I mean, he got him down for those ankle. I mean, people forget. I haven't think about Arlovsky as a striker. We forget when he first came on the scene, he was known for his grappling.
Yeah.
Remember his ankle? Like, listen, when I say we forget, we don't forget because we've been around forever. But people who, if you came in and you weren't around at 2002 or whenever 2001 when Arlovsky first on the scene,
pretty tough.
He the guy that would drop down on an ankle and crank an ankle or something. So I mean, people mention the crafty veteran. Who's more crafty than Andre Arlovsky?
You know what though? Here's the thing about Arlovsky. He gets kind of. If you look at his numbers, I think he's bigger than you think he is. I think he's 6'3".
No, yeah.
I think he's like 6'3", 240. So I don't know. I mean, they're teammates. This is kind of pointless. But let me change the discussion. Do you think Andre Arlovsky is a Hall of Famer? And if not, what does he have to do on this run? Top 5 title shot?
We've talked about this. He's a Hall of Famer because everyone gets in the
Damn you. Just in Keith Schillen's world, is he a Hall of Famer? Never mind, because the gate is perpetually open. What do you think?
Well, I mean, when I think of there's guys in the Football Hall of Fame, guys in the Baseball Hall of Fame that I wouldn't put in. When I think of Hall of Fame, I think of the greatest of the greatest of the greatest of the greatest. The elite of the elite. Andre Arlovsky won the title off of Tim Sylvia. He defended it against Justin Eilers, who was coming off a loss. He defended the belt against Paul Bunatello. That's his 2 title defenses. I mean, what do you think the percentage of UFC fans have heard of Paul Bunatello?
Very low.
Okay, even lower. Justin Eilers. Think about this. Justin Eilers got knocked out in the first round and got a title fight.
You know what I think, and we'll
look that up. That's a true statement. Look it up.
Right.
He got knocked out by Paul Bunatello, then got a title fight.
We'll chop this up later because the Hall of Fame podcast is sort of out there, and we want to do that more intentionally. But I think that there could be a case made that some of these Hall of Fame resumes, we need to take a look at what happens after these guys fight. Like, who did they fight, and what did that person do after they fought them? And that really becomes the sort of the thing that determines whether or not some of these Hall of Fame inductions are.
But he will get in. He will 100% get in.
You think so?
100%.
There's a lot of guys that got to go in before him, though. Jim
Miller's going to go in. I asked a question on Twitter. Jim Miller, UFC Hall of Famer, and I was like, people are like, why you even ask a question? Because I'm like, Jim Miller wasn't a top 5 guy ever in his career.
Dude,
he's
that's
in.
Tough.
Okay. Joe Lozano in, and people will be like, yeah, everyone's in. They just want to put everyone in.
Yeah, I don't know if I can support that one.
Who is he in the UFC Hall of Famer? But okay. Anyways.
All right,
let's blow through prelims because they're terrible.
Yeah, they were pretty bad. Let's hit them. All right, let's start with Alex Caceres defeated Steve Peterson by unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. I won't ask too much from you on this one, but I will say that Alex Caceres lives here in the Valley, so give me something.
He was just too fast. He was too fast. He's had a good game plan, and Steven Peterson made a huge mistake. He didn't listen to his coach, Stacey Odd, who I think is the best coach. He's the Florida MMA coach. He kept saying go for a takedown. When Peterson was winning, it was with takedowns. And he didn't follow it. For some reason, I mean, even in the 3rd round when he got a takedown, he finally went for a takedown with 25 seconds left, something like that. And he took Alex Caceres down, controlled him. It's like, dude, well, chances are you're probably out of the UFC now.
All right, up next, and this is another one. Ben and I talked about this last week. You and I talk about it all the time. There's these women's fights between 2 ranked women that always end up somehow buried on the prelims. This one was Raquel Pennington defeating Irene Aldana by split decision, 29-28, 28-29, 29-28. What'd you have in this?
Let's do something for once. Let's put this fight and the Modafferi fight together.
Okay.
Because I want to say something that goes in. The UFC women's divisions, bantamweight, flyweight, featherweight, are so shallow. And 1 or 2, 3 wins in a row, and you get a title fight. But the UFC makes this huge mistake by burying them on the undercard, and then wonder when Valentina Shevchenko faces Jessica Eye, no one's excited to see Jessica Eye fight. Or when Amanda Nunes fights Raquel Pennington, no one's excited to see that. Well, you've been burying her fights on the prelims. That's why that's why Raquel Pennington doesn't have a following. That's why Jessica Eye doesn't have a following. So that's what I just want to get to this. Irene Aldana was building to try to be like his Mexican star, and you buried her on the prelims, and she ended up losing to Pennington. About this fight, Pennington is just a more polished at this point. If this fight got fought 2 years from now, I think Aldana wins that fight. Right now, it seemed like a little too much too soon. And to go to the Modafferi Maya fight, Maya was picking her apart on the feet. Modafferi couldn't get her down. But what really drove me crazy about this fight being so buried, if Modafferi won, you couldn't make an argument that she'd get a title fight if she beat Jennifer Maya. And you got her buried. You got her below Sam Alvey. I mean, I don't know who comes up with the order of the fights, but give me a break.
So give me why you think it would make sense. And I know that's a hard question to ask, because there's
Right.
I watched this.
Why?
Well, I'm saying I watched this documentary one time, and the guy said you can't make rational sense of an irrational act, right? So why are they burying the girls? Tell me why. What's the upside?
Well, Dana said he had that interview with the guy from Barstool Sports. I can't think of his name right now. But he mentioned about the order, and he goes, we look at these algorithm and what's trending and this and that, and then that's the way we come up with the order of the fights. And I know sometimes a Russian will be buried or a Japanese fight will be buried because of the time difference. They want it to be in a time, like a somewhat decent time back home, which I'm actually okay with when they do. I remember when people complained about Zabit being an open fight. He was scheduled to be the open fight of a card, and then things shuffled and he got moved up, but he was going to be open fight because they were trying to get it at a decent time in Russia. But what I was going to say, algorithms, well, Raquel Pennington is not going to trend well on Twitter if you bury her in the prelims. You want her to get up there, well, put her on the main card and she'll get more tweets. I mean, that's what's going to happen. It's kind of like the chicken before the egg thing. You don't want to put
I think we're at the point now in a lot of ways where it's like there was a time when, and we face this right now with what we do in terms of creating content. There was a time when you were talented, then you got hired, then someone helped you find an audience. Now you find the audience and you're hired based on the audience that you already have. So a lot of times when you wonder why two hot chicks fight each other, it's because they already have an audience.
Sure.
That is, I'm not telling you anything you already know. I'm just kind of saying it, like synthesizing it. But what my point is that at some of these people, man, they're just not going to be able to build an audience. But you have to recognize that they have talent, and you have to put them in positions to gain an audience. And you can't act like, listen, if Raquel Pennington against Irene Aldana is on the prelims or the main card, it's not going to make a ton of difference in terms of your viewers. It's going to make a ton of difference in terms of their viewers. It's not going to change whether or not the rating is higher or lower. Yeah. So put them on the prelims or put them on the main card. You give them more of a push on the main card. That's my point.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the placement on this card, I mean, it's hard when I look at the main card to try to pick out which fight on this card should have been on the main card down. Probably nothing, because you're still putting up promotion behind Hernandez, promotion by Hooker. But like Alex Caceres and Steven Peterson, that could be the argument for the opening fight. You got that as the headlining fight on the prelims.
Yeah,
that should be one of the female fights, but I don't know.
Yeah, all right, let's move on. Klidson Abreu defeated Sam Alvey by unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. I'll just ask you this: where are we at with Alvey?
I'm done with Alvey. I mean, I like Alvey. Alvey's a good person, but he's boring. Alvey does good when he presses the fight, when he's throwing combinations, or if you just run into a punch. If you're careful with your attacks, and you get away from his counters, he doesn't have put enough output to win, and that's what happened in this fight. And I'm done with him. I mean, I don't want to. I got nothing else to say about him.
Well, let me ask you this about him. And is he one of these guys, and we don't really talk about this that much, which is why I'm bringing it up now, but is he one of those guys?
Ask me if he's going to go in the UFC Hall of Fame.
No. Is he one of those guys that gets a win at some point and that buys him 3, 4, 5 fights in the UFC? Like when he beat Rashad Evans, when he beat Nate Marquardt, when he beat even John Vellante. Is this what keeps him around for, like, he beat Evans, lost his next fight, then 1-2, and it's like he got the Rogerio fight. Is it just that? Is that the kind of stuff that keeps some guys around? They get a fight that they should have never got, and
I think it's
they're dining in on that. You know that old saying? He's dining in on this.
Yeah. I think it's more of how many times he took fights at short notice.
That's probably I
think he's. I mean, this is the guy that would take a fight on a day's notice.
That makes sense. All right, let's move on to. We talked about Maya and Matafari. Ray Borg and Gabriel defeated Gabriel Silva by unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. How about this one?
You know what I said about Aldana versus Pennington, that if they fought 2 years from now, I feel the same way with this fight. I think Silva had a lot of good moments. He had a lot of good scrambles. Borg is just 2 seasons at this point. Silva's too young. I think if they rematch 2 or 3 years from now, I think Silva will win that fight.
All right, let's move on to Mario Bautista defeating Jinsu San by unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28. What'd you think about Bautista?
I mean, the whole fight was a fantastic fight. This is the best fight of the card. Both guys banging it out, throwing everything. Not a lot of defense, but both guys are extremely tough. And Batista just put out a higher output of the two, but a really, really fun fight. If you didn't watch the prelims, skip every single one, but this one is worth watching.
All right, and then the first fight of the night was Felipe Colares defeating Domingo Pilarte by split decision, 29-28, 28-29, 29-28. How about this one?
I scored it for Pilarte 29-28, but it's one of these terrible fights. I like, people say, oh, they don't like grappling. I like grappling. I don't like this grappling. It was just clinching against the fence. Nothing really happened. No one really being in danger. It was a terrible fight. Skip it. If you haven't seen it, you can skip that one.
All right, let's get on to the fun stuff. Let's start with Not For Nothing. Then we'll get to trending up and trending down, all the other
Sure.
stuff. All right, I will begin. So my first Not For Nothing is, listen, Not For Nothing, Dan Miragliotta. Everybody hates Hardy, but you got to be a professional, man. I know he starts dancing, you're shaking your head. I get it. You're not the first person that didn't like Greg Hardy. But, dude, you got a job to do. You need to get in there and do it and act like you're supposed to act. So that's my first Not For Nothing. Second one, Not For Nothing, Alex Hernandez looks like if Canelo Alvarez and Dominic Cruz had a kid. If I've used that one before, I apologize. I couldn't stop thinking about that the entire fight. So that's my second Not For Nothing. And my third Not For Nothing, I want to say that I almost guarantee that Keith will not like this one, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's a very unpopular opinion amongst MMA writers. So here it comes. Not For Nothing, MMA writers. You write for national websites. You want everyone to read your shit. What do you care if a fighter is tagged in the replies of a tweet you send? If you care about them reading it, don't tweet it. I get the snitch tagging. You write for websites, national websites, where you're being critical. Who cares if they're tagged? Get over it. All right, Keith.
Yeah, you're wrong. I don't care. I mean, because I put negative stuff about fighters all the time. I go to the Contender Series where I put a bunch of stuff in there negative about fighters. So I got a bunch of Not For Nothings. Not For Nothing. The Korean fighter I'm messing up his name, Jinsu San. Not For Nothing, man. If you want to win the UFC, you have to have a Korean name. For example, the Korean Zombie, the Korean Superboy. He could be the Korean Robot, the Korean Type, something. Go some kind of Korean nickname, and you'll start winning. Not For Nothing. Can we stop mentioning Gabriel Silva is Eric Silva's little brother? Like that's a good thing. Not For Nothing. ESPN, if you're going to keep talking about Ray Borg and his son, you knew he was going to fight. Can you get his son on camera It took like 20 minutes to find the kid. Come on, there's got to be somebody who knows where he's sitting. And I'm glad that his son is doing better. Not for nothing. I don't know who came up with the bout order, and we just bashed it. But having Roxanne Modafferi fight right before Sam Alvey was pretty cool. I think the two of them should have a baby together, and then that baby could just cure all like badness and just bring peace and joy to everybody. Not for nothing. I don't remember who the referee was in the Sam Alvey Abreu fight. Abreu landed a very bad knee after the bell. You have two jobs as referee: to stop a fight when it's supposed to be stopped, and to enforce rules. If you're not going to enforce rules, why are you even there? That was terrible. It was a play knee that could change a whole bout. It wasn't even a warning. Not for nothing. Can we finally figure out what Alexei Oleinik's spelling of his name is? He's had 71 fights, and I'm not exaggerating. There's like 4 or 5 different spellings out there how he spells his first name and his last name. I have no idea how to spell his name. Can we have him just solve it for all of us once and for all? And my last not for nothing, Walt Harris. They asked you who you want to fight. You're coming off the biggest win. You got a quick knockout. Don't pick your location. Pick your opponent and your location. Come on, man. Sorry.
All good. I loved it all. All right, let's move on to trending up, trending down. For me, trending up, Greg Hardy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to argue. So, listen, he's looking good, man, and the defense is there. Juan Adams, like you said, he was supposed to be the end of the line for Hardy, and then all of a sudden when he loses, he's, like you said, he's a can. I disagree. I think Greg Hardy, for whatever we think of him outside of the cage, he's doing some good things in the cage. And my trending down was RDA. I just didn't like the performance. I wasn't crazy about it, and maybe that's taking too much away from Leon Edwards. Maybe I should have him trending up and leave RDA alone, because there's plenty more meat on the bone to have somebody trending down. Could have went with Sam Alvey, could have went with a lot of different ways. I just don't see the next run for RDA. Although, listen, we're only as good as our last fight. He looked good against Kevin Lee. I might be jumping the gun a little bit. All right, who'd you have?
I also had Greg Hardy trending up, but I'll throw 2 more on. Walt Harris just picked up the biggest one of his career, quick knockout. And Daniel Hooker rebounded from the knockout to Edson Barboza in a great way. Trending down, I had a couple. Alexei Oleinik, he's on a big losing streak now. Alex Hernandez is the first fighter I think I put trending down in a win. I think he's trending down in a win. And Juan Adams, I mean, you can't call a dude out and then lose in 45 seconds. He almost made people forget about Ben Askren and how bad that was.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to Shocker of the Night. My Shocker of the Night, honestly, was I think the way Hardy handled that takedown. I hate to keep talking about the guy, but that was the one thing that surprised me. I thought that if the fight stayed standing, Hardy had a shot, but the fact that he nullified Adams' takedown in that way and then went on to the finish, that was the thing that threw me for a loop. Shocked me. All right, you're up.
My biggest shocker was the Trinaldo Hernandez decision. I thought Trinaldo won. We don't have a lot to work with. Not too many things shocked me. So I'm going to say the decision. I thought Trinaldo won that fight.
All right, let's move on to something that I think was your idea, and I don't even know if you ever got to do it because we started it last week. So what do you got for this card in terms of an overall grade?
I'm going to give it a C-. The prelims was terrible. After the prelims was heading towards an A. So to an F. The main card really delivered. I think there was 4 stoppages. The main event was fun. So I'm going to give it a C-, just passing.
Dude, you gave it a lot, but all those decisions, man, I just can't get behind them. You were much more forgiving than I was. I probably give it a D+. But ask my students, I grade tough. So
D+ and C- were pretty close.
Yeah, but one gets you in trouble with your parents, and the other one doesn't.
How many times did the kid come in, be nice to you, and he changes? All right, D+ or C-.
All right, you got it.
Get out of my office.
All right, let's do From the Notebook. I want to talk a little bit about this group of guys who called this fight, and to tell you that I think that we need to move on from. And I know guys got schedules, and I get it, man. Like people have things going on. DC's got fights, and Rogan's a stand-up comedian, has podcasts. I get it. The different groups, right? So I like Anik, I like Cruz, I like Whitman. I like DC, Rogan, Anik. I like Bisping and Fitzgerald. I mean, if that's what I have to have, I'll take it. I think Anik's good with Bisping. I think you know what? And I bust his balls, but I actually like Paul Felder with the Brits. I'm okay with that. I think it's a nice little mix. So what I was talking about, Keith, is I like Cruz as the lone analyst, and
yeah, I did too.
Him, and I think that he has an issue with being the smartest person in the analyst spot, and even if he is or he isn't, he feels this need to prove himself. Whereas when it's just him and Anik, he has nothing to prove. So for me, I'm sort of saying that I think that we need to get to the point where we just have dedicated crews. And I like Anik, Cruz, and Whitman. I like DC, Rogan, Anik. I like Felder and the two Brits. I can't quite figure Bisping out yet, but that's what I like. So what'd you think about the crew tonight? I thought Whitman was better.
Yeah, I really like Dominic Cruz. I think he's what I love about Dominic Cruz is that he's very technical sound, but he also isn't scared to like go after a fighter and say, "Hey, I think this is a terrible game plan." Not a lot of people are willing to do that, and I really like that. The one mistake I think he did is that he tried going PG-13 on, I think it was the Ray Borg fight. Gabriel Silva had Borg's back, and this cornerman was screaming, "Break his jaw," because he was trying to tell him to crank on it, and Dominic Cruz tried to clean it up and says, "Yeah, his coach is trying to tell him to tack the jaw to go with this move." It's like, no, you could hear him screaming like 10 times, "Break his jaw." That's the only thing I thought was kind of funny that he tried changing that up. But everything else, I like Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, I thought it was a good. We like these cards. So, I mean, we don't really get too like wrapped up in. I think that Whitman's finding his way. I really think that he needs to be a little bit more energetic. But I think that you can't do more. Let me get your take on this. Is 3 the number in any form? Is it just 3? I feel like if you have 3 in doing the commentary and then Whitman, it's just too much.
Yeah, I think 3 is the max.
All right.
I'm not just
no. So let's talk about a couple other things. I want to do it before we let you go, but it's about one thing very specifically. I did not prep you for this. I'm just gonna drop it on you. You are in the vicinity of my age, so I will ask you this: have you seen the trailer to the new Top Gun movie, and how did you respond to it?
I did see the trailer.
Okay.
And
hold on, before you answer that question, what space does Top Gun occupy in your life?
None.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I've seen it. I am the worst. But listen.
Oh, this guy with the fights. It's the fights and nothing else.
Listen.
It's his family. It's the legal system, and it's the fights, guys. I don't know what else you want from him, but you're not going to get it because I've been trying to get it.
NFL football. I like the Patriots. I'll talk about Patriots, and I'll talk smoking meats. I'm really into smoking meats. I'm sure people will make some jokes with that.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
We'll be pulling that clip for sure.
Yeah, I like smoking meats.
Yeah,
and man, I'm not a big movie TV guy. Listen, take Tom Cruise out of that movie, replace him with like Randy Couture. I'll watch.
Wow, that is the statement of all statements.
I'd rather talk about if the UFC is going to cut Sam Alvey. I think they're cutting Sam Alvey and Ben Rothwell.
The cut list. You're literally more. I forgot about the cut list. You're more invested in whether or not the UFC cuts Sam Alvey than the new Top Gun sequel.
I haven't gone to the movies in. Well, that's not true. I go to the movies. We have a $1.99 movie theater that is. It's not like brand new movies. It's like maybe
they're a little bit
5, 6 months. I don't know if anybody has like 5 or 6 months.
We have that.
Yeah. Okay. So I go to those because it costs $1.99. I bring my children because they don't watch TV really unless I let them, and then they don't know when Toy Story comes out. So like I haven't seen.
So all the kids in school are like, "Hey, did you see Toy Story? Yeah, I'll talk to you about it in 5 months."
Yeah, like the Lion King came out. Like we'll see the Lion King.
Right. 5 months from now.
6 months, yeah, 5 6 months now. Like I'm not dropping $12 a ticket. I mean, honestly, when I bring them and
There's
I
that
get
sweet
popcorn,
spot, Keith, right before it's available on to purchase at home, and
yeah,
after
yeah,
it's out of the movie. That's the shilling zone.
yeah. But like going out with like my wife to the movies, we don't do that. I haven't been to the expensive movie unless I got like free tickets. But I don't remember the last time I was like when people are like, oh, I can't wait to see this movie. I've never watched. I don't watch those superhero movies. Like, I've
Right.
never seen Avengers or any of that shit.
I'm trying to think of what scenario I could place you in that would be more uncomfortable than this. So let's get back to the fights. So
Yeah, yeah, I was going against Damian Martin in the finals of
between the links,
Damon between links. Yeah, I was in the finals against Damon Martin. And he's a big name, I respect, but he is like a big pop cultural person.
right? He has
Like he
two lives.
writes,
He's an MMA guy and he's like
yes,
a movie
writes
guy,
for like
nerdcore,
some
I think.
other, yeah, he writes for some like nerdy website where they talk about comic
Right.
books, and that's hey, whatever. That's cool. That's his thing.
Uh huh.
And Mike Heck set me up so bad because the question was, what two celebrities would you like to see fight each other? I couldn't think of two. That's how bad I was. The first
Wow.
two I thought of was, and I actually thought I still gave a better answer than he did. The two I thought of was Flavor Flav, and I couldn't think of Robert. What I still can't think of his name. What's the Iron Man's name?
Robert Downey Jr.
Ronnie. I kept calling Robert De Niro, Robert Downey Jr. I want to see Flavor Flav and Robert Downey Jr. fighting MMA, and his answer was like two politician people.
Yeah,
And John gave Mike gave him the win.
that's
To,
funny.
to
Well, then let's get back
yeah,
into your sweet spot. Who do you think should be cut?
Sam Alvey. I'm sick of Sam Alvey. I'm sorry. He's a great person. Chances are, if you're arguing for Sam Alvey to stay in the UFC, it's probably because you're a media member. You've interviewed him, and you're probably a media member of a small site, and you like him.
Right.
I like Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey's cool. Like I'd hang out with Sam Alvey. I'd have a burger with Sam Alvey. Like he's a good person. He just doesn't look like a UFC level fighter to me anymore. I'd cut Ben Rothwell. He looks too old and too slow for Bellator. And I think Steven Peterson. I mean, he's got a rough record in the UFC now. I cut him too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you cut a guy like Olynyk. I think he's done. I mean, he's ranked.
Oh, Olynyk, yeah.
So I don't know if you cut him. I think maybe he's the kind of guy you have a talk with. You just say, listen, man, don't make us cut you publicly. Just take a walk, you know?
At 42 with a broken leg, I don't think you're gonna have to.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so that everybody you said I'd agree with, and Olynyk.
Could you see him like fighting Crow Cop in Ryzen, like after Crow Cop had a stroke like 3 years from now?
No, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Like Olynyk, that's like the kind of fight you'll see him in, a fight in Fedor.
It's such a weird thing. It's kind of like the point between when a movie's in the theaters and when it gets to the theater you like. But there's a small window of like when a guy's past his prime, but I still like to watch him fight, and then when it just gets messy. And typically the UFC does an okay job at matching up guys past their prime and an okay job at telling them when to leave. And then when they get to other organizations, they're like, oh shit, I gotta watch this. But
So it's Bellator the 6 months late? Is that Bellator?
yes, Bellator is your other theater. You
People come up to
guys-
me and they're like, "Have you seen the new John Wick movie?" And I'm like, "Seen the new one? I haven't seen any of them. I've seen Dumbo, the new Dumbo movie, and I started last week. That was new to us. We saw the new Dumbo movie."
There you go. So yeah, Bellator's kind of like your movie theater, and then HBO's like PFL.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so let's get to the big finish. You told me you had one. I'm excited to hear it. Let's have it.
All right, my big finish. Listen, first of all, I want to say this because there's a lot of haters out there. I'm not a hater. I like Ariel Helwani. I think he's very good at what he does. I think he's the best. Or not the best. He's the leading journalist in MMA. He's the most recognizable. He's very good at what he does. But Ariel, I'm begging you, please stop trying to do MMA and NBA. You're doing it too hard, and you're pressing things that's not there. Stop comparing Leon Edwards to Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan is a top 15 NBA player of all time. Leon Edwards is not. You want to compare someone to Tim Duncan, go with like an Antonio Nogueira. I mean, I get the comparison. The comparison, though, he's quiet, he doesn't do anything, he does everything sound. We'll go with like a Nogueira. Go with a Dan Henderson. Don't go with Leon Edwards as Tim Duncan. It's an insult to Tim Duncan. And I just talked for like 20 minutes how good Leon Edwards is. Please, Ariel, stop doing it.
All right, here's my big finish. It's not something I'm necessarily. Well, you know, I'm not even gonna couch it. I'm just gonna say it. Guys, you got to get yourselves under control with this Greg Hardy hate, because all it's going to do, this guy's going places. And I hate to break it to people that truly hate him. I understand why you hate him. I have no problem with you hating him. I get it. I understand your feelings on it. I'm just saying that for your own well-being, you need to just figure out that this guy's going places, and he's probably going to crack the top 10. There's a chance he might, at some point fight for a title. He's only getting better. Okay, he's like he's 30 years old. He's not an old guy. He's got time. He's got good coaching. He's got a lot of things in his favor to make this thing happen. And I think that if you just chill out a little bit with the hate, things will take care of themselves. He's going to run into a guy who has the things that he needs to take care of Greg Hardy. There is a water in which Greg Hardy cannot swim. Right? He hasn't reached it yet. There's a depth for him. Okay? Obviously Stipe Miocic is out of his depth. Obviously, the top heavy, Francis Ngannou's out of his depth. He wouldn't try any of this. Listen, Greg Hardy is a powerful striker. He's not a super technical striker. He gets sloppy. That shit don't work with Ngannou. You can't go in there sloppy with Ngannou. It might not work with Derek Lewis. So he has a depth that he can't swim in. So just chill out, wait for him to get to that depth, and you'll get what you want. He's probably not going to be the UFC heavyweight champion. He's just probably not. He might. Probably not. So at some point, he's going to run into the guy you want him to run into. Just chill out with getting yourself all worked up. It's the same old tweets over and over again. We all know he's trash. We all know he's a bad dude, right? But save yourself the heartache of going through it every time he fights. I know you're fighting a good fight, but you're wasting a lot of energy in it. All right, Keith. Give it to me. What do you got coming up? What can fans expect? What's new?
Like always, man, for now the 6 weeks I have the Contender Series previews. I've been working on it like all day long. And, of course, we did a very long show. Let me know when I do. It'll be out this Tuesday. It'll be out Monday, tomorrow. Make sure you check it out. If you want an in-depth preview of all 5 of the fights on Tuesday, that's the biggest thing I'm working on. But I got a couple other things. I have to interview with Frank Yeager coming up. And it's UFC, 240 this week? Right, 240. So enjoy the big preview this week.
There you go. And if you're wondering what to think about that pay-per-view, you can obviously read our boy. What is it? Is it Tom Feely does the previews of Sherdog, right?
Yes.
Tom Feely, you can read his previews. You can listen to Max Friedman and Marcel Dorff on Loudmouth MMA. So let's give you the full rundown of Loudmouth MMA because that's what you should be listening to. Not Safe for Work podcast. Between the Links with Mike Heck, which we are working on making video very soon. And I have a way to make it look pretty dope, so check that out. Obviously, the Sunday Morning Cornerman. What else am I missing? Not Safe for Work.
MMA
yesterday with Keith and Kyle. So this is the podcast network to listen to, and I've said it before. The great thing about this podcast network is all the guys that are on it get along, and we all do different shows. So if there's something that you like, it's not a rehash of all the other shows that you're hearing. It's not different ways to repackage the same guys. It's different guys doing different things, all doing them very well. So that's the Loudmouth MMA. For me, as far as Sherdog goes, I have a couple things I'm working on. Soon, I will be launching something called The Throwback. That's going to be our answer to, I guess, like MMA History Today, where I'm going to talk about all the things that happened in the past. We may do it daily. We'll definitely do it weekly. So that'll be called The Throwback. I'm working on this thing called The Blueprint, where I talk about guys and their paths to the title. And I may have a couple of spinning shits coming out for you guys, so check those out. All right. Keith can be followed at Keith Chillin MMA. I can be followed at SM Cornerman and at Loudmouth MMA and at Sherdog for all the rest of the stuff. There you have it. As always, tell your mom, tell your friends' moms, tell your mom's friends, tell everyone about the Sunday Morning Cornerman. As the great Alexander Gustafsson said, show's over, guys.